Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's English learning session. Today, we'll first quickly go through the words we've learned over the past few days, and then we'll go through looking to the rest of the article, which is about a gag order on Trump. Okay, let's just jump in. Let's go through the words we've learned. Start from this one, okay? Protract, prolong, extend. They've had such a protracted fight over the past year. The couple has such a protracted fight over the past year. Disarray, in disarray. The room is totally in disarray. Look at the table, it's totally in disarray, right? The car parking, the car's parked in disarray. Feet, an act or a deed, which is notable, especially for courage, notable for courage, such a feat. Look what you've done. You finished the novel, the writing of the novel within one night. Such a feat. Oh, like you dare to confront him. What a feat, right? Probably someone who is very, intimidating. Prolific, fruitful, productive, prolific. A prolific composer, a prolific writer who wrote, a dozen of books within 5 years. Prolific. Shrivel, shrunk, reduce, decline to ineffectiveness or helplessness. Shrivel, going down, decline, shrunk. Next to nothing, very little. I've ate next to nothing. It just costs me next to nothing. Oh, don't bother, it's on me. It costs next to nothing, right? If you treat somebody for dinner, you can say, oh, it's next to nothing to me. Like, you're such a wealthy man, so it's next to nothing to you. It's next to nothing to you. Fathom, probe, measure. Fathom, hard to measure. Dwarf can be used as noun and as a verb. Crank out, carry out, generate, something crank out, but especially for something of mechanical manner. Okay, mechanical manner, crank out. Sprawl. Remember sprawl, you just try to memorize the picture, like spreading out your legs and arms. Sprawl. That means you can try to imagine something, for example, your leg and arms spreading out. So extending that kind of meaning to something develop without regulatory. Something develop lack of restraint, develop very quickly. Sprawl is a verb. Backlog, something accumulated, such as tasks that yet to be performed. Backlog, I have a backlog of homework to do. I have very busy, hectic semester. I have a backlog of homework to do, right? Paucity, smallest, small in quantity, and quality. Smallest in, is it smallest? Let me have a look. Oh yeah, sorry. My pronunciation error. Smallness. It's kind of challenging to me because I cannot, for Chinese pronunciation, it's hard for me to pronounce L, N, right? Smallness in quantity and quality, paucity. Upper hand, advantage. I finally gain upper hand during the contest, in the race, upper hand. Bog down, be stuck, especially in a wet ground. Bog down, or can be used figuratively, be bogged down in details. A handful of, a small number of, a small number of, in light of, in light of, in view of, in view of, right? In light of. Munition, ammunition, something related to weaponry supply. Munition, ammunition, not list, particularly, especially. Filled. I wrote it down because its verb, its usage in verb as a verb. Filled means send an army to the battlefield. Filled an army. Okay, so this is the words, and there is another list. Blistering. Try to memorize blistering. So the contest was about blistering pace, so very rapid pace. Another meaning of blistering, extremely intense and severe. Blistering, extremely intense and severe. Blistering, or a very rapid pace. Bang for one's buck. Bang for one's buck. Try to think about, you just drop a dollar, a coin, dollar, a cent to somebody's buck. So it means you give the value to somebody. Bang for one's buck. More bang for consumers' buck means you give more value to consumers. Less bang for one's buck, you're just providing less value for him, for someone. Bang for one's buck. For instance, like providers put less chips in a bag with the same price, and probably the providers just downsize the ice cream cup while maintaining the same price, right? Bang, that called less bang for consumer's buck. From scratch, from beginning, from get-go. Defray, pay. Defray the payment, defray the bill. Brang dranks, brang gangs. Brang, some can refer to talents. Talent come in and come out. Means like brang dranks, brang gangs. Leeway. Greater room. The manager was given greater leeway to make decisions on this project. Head in the sand. Head buried in the sand means unwilling to recognize or pretend not seeing something, not recognize the situation. That means head in the sand. Head in the sand. Plunging to. If you're getting to something with enthusiasm and energy, you can say, oh, I can't wait to plunge into the project. Plunge into, or forcefully push something to somewhere. Plunge into. Edible, eatable. Begrudge. 2 meanings. Begrudge. What are the 2 meanings? First is envy, right? You should not begrudge her success. She deserves it. Deserves it. Begrudge. That's the first meaning, synonym, envy. And the second meaning is concede, reluctantly. Concede. I admit something which is unwillingly admit, or I did it, but reluctantly. Begrudge. Okay. Pad is profit. Pad. As long as you remember what the pad means here, it's very easy to get meaning. Pad means get thicker. So pad is profit means make the profit more, right? Pad your wallet, make your wallet thicker, means save money. And pad your budget. You should not spend money on these unnecessary things. You should pad your budget. Control your budget. Okay. And the third list, embryos. Something undeveloped. The original meaning of embryos is 胚胎. It's hard to say in English, so I just said in Chinese. Embryos, but the extended meaning of embryos, you can just refer to something undeveloped, something just newly established. Embryos, something in embryos. The project is in embryo. Backlash is a noun. backlash. Something, represent an adverse reaction, backlash. Something happened as undesired. It's pretty much similar to the meaning of backfire, but how to differentiate these two words is backfire is a verb, backlash is a noun. So they both can be used as noun and verb, but for backfire, if it's used as a noun, it's another meaning. It's kind of like some noise or something. Let me have a look. Yeah, if it's used as a noun, backfire means a mix of fuels, the huge noise caused by the explosion of fuels. And for the backlash, most of its usage is a noun. So the distinctive differentiation between the two, backfire as a verb, something backfired, something turned out to be undesired, backfired. And the noun, which is something backfired, the reaction of the backfire, that can be called backlash. The backlash of the project was huge, right? The backlash of the accusation was incredible. Incredible is not that proper, but you know what I mean. Okay. Bully carpet. Bully carpet. This is a very interesting word. Bully carpet means probably someone as a president. Then during his presidential period, he makes the most use of his bully carpet to gain influence and attention. Bully carpet means something or someone, means the official bureaucratic bureaus that can be called as bully carpet. Rattle, upset. The initial meaning of rattle is the sharp, short noise. You can just remember one example sentence. The window rattled in the wind. Rattled. Okay. And it can also meaning like upset because of the changing of the status quo. Rattle, imperative. It's imperative. So two meaning imperative means it's necessary, it's unavoidable. You just have to do it. Command, something with command, a sense of commanding. It's imperative for us to get this done by the end of the day, right? Imperative, very strong. You can say suggestive, commanding, normally kind of like order. Lump in, to bring something together, to bring things all together. It's not rational to lump in all this, in relative aspects to illustrate something, right? It's not reasonable to lump in. Off the hook, off the trouble, off the trouble, off the hook, off the trouble. Off, you see, hook as a goes off the hook. 的鱼逃脱了，就是 off the trouble, out of the trouble, right? Off the hook. Very easy to remember. Okay, the fourth list, face off. Face off means two competitors face off. Confront, head to head. Face off against, it normally comes with it either against or with face off. Currently, former President Trump is face off with his competitor, his only competitor, Nikki Haley. Landslide 名词的时候呢，就它的原意叫 landslide 滑坡，山体滑坡。这个我就不用英文解释了，直接说中文。那么作为动词的时候，它就是滑，比如说 landslide，就是 you can just landslide, you can just try to imagine, to think creatively. Landslide, a mass land or you can refer to a mass crowd, a mass of people, a mass people, like a slide. So it means can be referred to an overwhelming victory, right? Landslide. The victory, um, the victory of Trump in 2016 was a landslide, isn't it? Okay. Eclipse，它的本意是蚀、腐蚀的。那么在这个腐蚀的这个意思引申呢，我们就可以记 eclipse 就是什么什么东西被 darken 了，就被遮住了、暗了，被decline 了、减少了、reduce 了，对吧？因为它是被蚀的嘛，月食啊、日食的那个食，腐蚀的蚀。这个是它的引申的意义，但是它还有个特别的一个意思，我们那天记了，就是 surpass。你看，我们可以这样记，比如说日食、月食，它是那个一个行星啊，具体我可能讲的不对啊，但是大概那个意思啊，就它是运行到把那个太阳的光线遮住了一部分的时候嘛，它就变成了月食了嘛，对不对？那么我们就可以从这个意思呢，可以想到，哎，是一个什么东西运行到超过了它。超过了那个光线那个的速度了，就是后面月亮运行的那个速度了，所以呢，它就遮住了那个太阳的光，那就可以记得 surpass，对吧？这个 eclipse 有 surpass、exceed 超过的意思。court，名词法庭，我们都知道。那 court 还有一个名词的意思就是 an act or behavior。这个 behavior 是什么呢？That trying to gain favor， 就是想要去获得好感的一个行为，叫做 court 作为名词。那由这个名词衍生成它的动词去记忆的话，就是我在 court 你们的 favor， 对不对？这个怎么说的太准确了，白。我在 court 你们的 favor， 也可以说 candidate， 某一个 candidate 在 court voters favor。Right, court voters. 比如说，former President Trump, he is courting the Black Americans. This demographic 这一个部分的人群 court，所以它是这个部分是比较少见的，要特别记一下 courting。有时候在英语当中，特别是新闻里面可能会看到 odds 就是 probability， 就是 chances， 就是可能发生的概率 odds。我们记了几个词组啊，两个词组，一个是 at odds。at odds 是什么意思呢？ at odds in disagreement at odds， 对吧？比如说 the two departments are always at odds on every decision， 在所有的决策上面，这两个部门都是 at odds， 全都是相反的，他们是object to each other， 就是完全in disagreement 不同意的、对抗的 at odds， 这是第一个词组。第二个词组是 let me think about it， 第二个词组是 in all odds at all odds at all odds， 看我对不对啊 at all odds by all odds by all odds 是 by all odds by all means， 对，你可以这样记了，就是 by all means。by all means 这个词应该比较多的人会熟悉。by all means 不管怎么样，各种方面 by all means by all odds， 那就是 in every aspect in every single way by all odds by all odds。She is an excellent writer by all odds， 就各个方面，它就是 by all odds this is the best book of the year， 这是今年最佳的 by all means。This is the best book of the year by all odds。我写了，我刚刚居然没看到。OK, by all odds. Slate 它的本意呢是一个石板，就是以前用作写字的那个石板。那么就是因为它古代它是用作写字的，因为人们是用写在文字它写在石板上面嘛。那么这个 slate 呢，它就有引申意思了，那就是应该是我不是好像不是很记得清了，应该是写在某一个应该是指的 写的东西，看看是不是啊？是不是写的东西？还有这个 slate 应该还有一个意思，还有一个意思是什么呢？slate 啊，我想不到了，朋友们记得吗？啊，在上面写字的东西，那就 OK，它还是这个石板引申义的，a written or unwritten record started with a clean slate, a list of candidates for nomination or election，候选人的这个名单。The Republic presidential candidate will be elected. The Republic presidential candidate will be elected by delegates from each state, which will be slated on. Slate，它这个地方呢，slated on，它这个应该不是指的名词了，slated 肯定是个动词了。slated 就是被写在，应该是这个意思。A written or unwritten record 应该就是 a written record，就是会在这一天被写下来，会记下来。OK，所以这个呢，例句其实应该要放在这上面来。它也可以用作名词，就指的那个名单了。这个我们忘记了。好，那么我们再回来这个呢，这一部分的话我就没有记下来，因为我们是昨天才学到了这篇新的文章遇到的新的生词，那么我们就再回顾一下它的意思。Gag，记得那个 context，yeah。Sometimes 我就是会有点分不清 context，就是它那个 tex 和 test 有时候会读的我会混的，应该是一个 contest，就是 contest 就是比赛、竞赛、竞争、赛场 contest match up。context 就是整个文艺语境 context。这个是 text 叫text context。gag 它的本意是什么样呢？堵嘴，就是把个东西放在 throw something on your mouth，就是放什么东西堵住你的嘴巴。To provide prankful 也可以有这个意思，就是 provide pranks 就是恶作剧，我们经常有时在网上会看到那个短视频 pranks， 对吧 ？For something。Gag the press 就是shut mouth， 就是eliminate the freedom of speech of the press。Gag the press， 禁言了嘛。The gag order has been issued to Trump to prevent him making public statements in relation to witnesses in this legal case. This is what we encountered the other day. The gag was coming from. This is where the gag was coming from.OK， 然后呢，它还可以有一个意思something 就是 a love-provoking act or remark。这个和这个动词是有点相像的，它的引申的名词了，就是 a love-provoking， 就是引人发笑的行为或者是言论。gag 记得一个是堵嘴动词和它的名词都是有这个堵嘴的意思，禁言的意思。那另外一个就是搞笑的 gag。用作动词的时候，就是什么让人，就是那些动词，就是让人发笑的，或者是恶作剧的那个动作。那作为名词的话，就是either 就是一个行为或者是一个言论引人发笑的，都是有跟 laugh provoking 的有关系的，就是引人发笑有关系的。Undue， 我们都知道 due 就什么时候截止。Undue do not due 还没截止的 undue， 这是它的形容词。但还有一个意思呢，就是 exceeding excessive 超越的 undue。due 我们可以这样记，联想记忆就 due， 这个执行截止了，就在这里了。due 比如说有个界限的 undue 就是它没有这个界限，可能就是超过了更多超越的过度的，对吧？过了这个界限了 undue。也可以用过度的、过分的、超越的。This homework should not cause you undue, pressure. 不应该给你造成过分的压力。 Learning English should not bring us undue pressure, right? 学英语不应该成为一个负担 ，a burden，然后不应该给我们制造更多的过度的压力。我们应该让这个 learning process as easy as possible, as happy as possible. His writing is elegant without calling undue attention to itself. Material 我们都知道名词就是材料，那么作为形容词，材料的 physical 就是物体的 materialistic 有这个物质性的，这个是个名词。那 material 做形容词的就是有料的、真材实料的 something of great importance. Right? The researchers included all data that was material. Subpoena 这是个专业的词汇啊 ，subpoena 记得一下就好。subpoena 传票，法院传票。counsel 最常用的意思就是 advice 了 ，counsel 了 ，consultation 了，对吧？但是呢，它另外一个意思是，可能是我不太熟悉，我觉得应该很多朋友都会熟悉的，特别看美剧，关于法律方面美剧比较多的朋友应该都熟悉。Defense counsel lawyer， 它有这个 lawyer 的意思。Defense counsel 就辩护律师。Prophylactic, preventive 预见性的、预防的不是预见性的 ，sorry， 应该是预防的。Something prophylactic， 名词和形容词 prophylactic。Ample 和 amply。Ample 是它的这个本身的这个词 ，amply 是它的就是adv 那个怎么说呢？副词吧，是吧？副词啊，我不是很记得了，反正是 adverb 啊，不知道，我想不起那个中文是什么了。知道的朋友呢，给我留言告诉我一下。Ample 它的词根这个本意呢是 generous or more than adequate。abundant 就富有的、丰富的、富足的什么东西 ，either in size, scope or capacity. Spacious, abundant, ample. In an ample manner, sufficient, abundant. He apologized amply. Amply 呢，就是这个 ample 的adv 就是形容动词的那个 adj adjective 就是形容词嘛，对吧？形容词形容名词的嘛。Something ample， 对吧？那 adv 呢，就是形容动词的，就是 amply 叫做，比如说怎么造句呢？你看这句好了 ，He apologized amply for his error， 他就对他的这个道歉是 amply 了，就是非常多，就是他不停的为他的错误而道歉。They were amply supplied 是一个动词嘛，那这个 amply 形容 supplied 的就是提供了，他们被非常充足的提供了很多的这个 food 食物，对吧 ？OK。后面应该是其他的一些词呢，我们明天有时间再看，因为等会儿还要读那篇文章，所以呢，我们今天就把之前遇到的这些生词呢过一下。那我们再回来把这篇文章看完。这篇文章我们读一下啊，前面看了一半了。Manhattan DA seeks Trump gag order before trial. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office is seeking a gag order that would prevent former President Donald Trump from making certain extrajudicial statements as a case, alleging that the 45th president falsified business documents is heading to trial. Last week, the district attorney filed a notice for the upcoming gag order motion, arguing that President Trump has a long history of making public and inflammatory remarks about the participants in various judicial proceedings against him. The argument echoes those used in other jurisdictions to successfully gag President Trump during legal proceedings. A New York civil court and a federal judge in Washington both imposed gag orders on the former president with the reasoning which is What the reasoning? That named parties may suffer undue harassment, and appeals courts in both cases upheld the gag orders in part for the same reasons. As such, the Manhattan District Attorney is arguing that legal authority for such an order is well established. They argue that the formal presence they argue that the formal present sorry, I need to pronounce it clearly. They argue that the former president's statements and the inevitable reactions they incite from defendants' followers and allies will disorder the legal process and are likely to cause material prejudice. Material prejudice. Remember the material we just learned? The court has already issued a protective order regarding the use of materials obtained through materials, plural. This is a noun. It's another meaning, okay? Obtained through discovery and by subpoena. And prosecutors now want an additional order prohibiting President Trump from making or directing others to make statements about reasonably foreseeable witnesses concerning their potential participation in the investigation or in this criminal proceeding. Mirroring the language used by the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, the prosecutors asked that the gag order extend to statements about counsel other than Mr. Bragg, family and staff members of the district attorney, or other counsel, and court staff if the statements are made with the intent to materially interfere with the case or cause others to, and that is extended to statements about jurors or prospective jurors. As other courts have found, these reasonable prophylactic measures are amply warranted by defendants' past conduct and by the risk of prejudice to the pending proceeding if appropriate protective steps are not taken. Prosecutors wrote. OK， 在上次我们结束的时候呢，这一段呢我看了很久，没有看明白它到这个意思呢，还不是特别的清楚啊，不是特别的确定。后面我把这个问题呢解决了，然后跟朋友们来讨论一下。As other courts have found， 其他的法院已经发现了，已经证实了 these reasonable prophylactic measures， 这些合理的预防性的措施，就是前面指的这个禁口令了。are amply warranted， 就是非常强、非常大的、非常也可以说非常确定的 warranted， 就是保证了什么呢？这一段这里我们开始断开啊。By the defendant's past conduct， 这个 defendants 就是指的川普的过往的行为 ，and by the risk， 好，这里我们又停一下 ，and by the risk of prejudice to the pending proceeding。By the risk of prejudice， 就是这个因为pending 的 proceeding， 就是这个持续的这个过程呢，所会发生的 prejudice 就是偏见和 bias 就是这个偏见所造成的风险。好，这我们先停一下啊，就是这个可合理的可预防性的措施被川普以往的行为以及这个一直持续的这个 legal 司法程序所具有的可能有偏见的风险，给amply warranted， 给非常深刻的或者非常广泛的、很足够的分量的warranted secured， 就是证明了、证实了。If 如果合适的 protective steps are not taken， 如果没有保障性的这个措施没有采取的话，那么这个这些合理的 prophylactic measures 就会其实就这些啊，天啊，这句话真的太复杂，我觉得。你们觉得呢？这话我觉得很不好理解，就是因为他这里讲了 "These reasonable prophylactic measures are amply warranted"，是吧？他前面讲了 "reasonable prophylactic" 啊，no，我不可以，因为他是 prosecutor rights，right？所以可能是我的问题，大概率吧，应该就是我的问题。好吧，我们再来说一下，尝试把它说清楚。就是根据以往其他的法院也发现了，就是这些合理的有预防性的措施，如果不采取的话，如果没有这些合适的保护性的措施没有采取的话，这个基于呃不对，不是这样子。这个 reasonable prophylactic measures are amply warranted by 什么？这个应该是这个啊，这个measures 应该是天呐 The reasonable prophylactic measures are amply warranted 就这一段是这个句话的核心枝干了，主谓宾了。然后什么原因被 amply warranted 的呢？是因为这个辩护就是控方就是川普了，他以前的行为，还有这些司法，因为持续的司法可能造成的偏见嘛。就是比如说，川普他发声明抨击那个出庭作证的证人，那就其实上会造成这个 prejudice， 他因为这个外部的环境的影响，可能会造成 prejudice， 就是 judgment 他没有办法 take place 了，就是可能会被 infected。如果没有 appropriate 合适的保护措施的话，它就会造成这个问题。然后因为这个问题，因为没有保护措施所造成这些问题，又反过来让这些 prophylactic measures amply warranted，就是被证明了它是需要的、必须的，然后这是由其他的法院发现的。这差不多就是我能做到比较好的解释了吧。如果你们有更好的解释，留言告诉我，留言给我写下来啊。因为这句话真的既要把它的这个看清楚，然后又要用中文把它解释出来，确实是有点挑战。那我们继续往下看吧。相信朋友们都知道这个意思了。They argue this is appropriate as it is narrowly tailored。它是量身定做的，所以它非常合适。指的就是 gag order 禁口令。The order wouldn't prevent President Trump from speaking about the case or Mr. Bragg, but would prevent him from making statements about witnesses. 这个我们昨天讲过了 OK. In a separate civil case, attorneys for President Trump sought to impeach Mr. Cohen as a witness, pointing out that he lied in court multiple times. 在另外一个民事的案件当中，这个 attorney 律师，川普的律师呢，就是 sought to 就 seek to 就是寻求 impeach 就是impeach 我们都知道吧 impeach 就是如果是总统的话，弹劾用的是弹劾，不是总统 sorry 就是官员，国会的官员啊、议员啊就弹劾。那么这里的 impeach 呢，应该是allege 就是控诉他 as a witness。他作为证人的话，指出他经常在法庭上撒谎。Attorneys for President Trump said they will respond in court this week. 他们会在这一周在法庭做出回应。Bragg received white powder letters, threats, security officer. White powder letters. 它的原意 white powder， 它是一个专指有特别意思的一个词啊。White powder 就是 either cocaine 可卡因 ，white powder 多指毒品啊。White powder letters 是什么意思呢？就是 threats， 就是对 threats 威胁性、恐吓性。我把它应该有，我刚刚有没有讲 ？Yeah，OK，、有记下来啊。White powder letters， one of the most common and the most 这个是 我不是很确定它的读音，我要查一下，保证我读得准。hoax, hoax, 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 a trick into believing or accepting as a genuine something false. 恶作剧，恶作剧 take many different shapes， 就是有很多的方法，很多的方式，很多的样子。One of the most common and most familiar is the white powder letter, even since the 什么2001年这个 attacks， 这个是什么呢？这个肯定是一个专有名词哦，炭疽病。所以呢，我就不用那个查，因为用英文查，我可能也不会明白它什么意思。炭疽病 ，OK。这个炭疽病2001年袭击的时候 ，white powder letters have been commonly used as a way to harass and intimidate. Harass 恐吓、恐吓、威胁。So white powder letters 就指的这个恐吓性、威胁性。记到 white powder letters, threats. Security officer. Prosecutors argued that President Trump has a long-standing and perhaps singular history of social media use and use of other platforms on which he criticizes adversaries. 这个检察官指控川普总统呢有长期并且可能是在历史上唯一一个对社交媒体使用并且用其他的这个平台在上面去批评 adversaries 他的对手反对者。They cited posts in which he called Mr. Bragg. 他们引用了 posts， 这个 posts 应该是川普的 posts， 他们引用了川普的 posts， 就是 posts。然后 in which 就 in which 指的这个什么 post 里面有什么呢？川普 called Mr. Bragg racist, George Soros backed, 索罗斯 backed 支持的 while denouncing 朋友们知道什么意思呢 denouncing let's look into it. Let's just denounce. Yeah, denounce, okay? Denounce, to pronounce, especially publicly, to be blameworthy or evil. Denounce. 那就是公开说他，指责他，或者是因为他的不好，或者是坏的、恶的，而公开指责。To announce threateningly 就是威胁的 announce 有威胁气氛的。To inform against accuse 就是指控。Denounce to the authorities, denounce to pretend. To announce formally determination 就是公开的就是什么公开的宣布什么东西被废除了，被暂停了，被禁止了 termination. OK, denounce. 所以它这个是有一个公开的意思在里面啊，意思 public 的，或者是更多的是指责 synonym condemn 指责 censure choose the right synonym for denounce. 看啊，有这么多的它的同义词 denounce, criticize 这个应该很熟reprehend, censure, reprobate, condemn, denounce 全都是指责，全都有指责之意。它们有什么不同？看一下 criticize implies found No, found 我这个 find 总是会读的跟它的过去时总是会读混 find, found, finding, fault, especially with methods or policies or intentions, criticized the police for using violence. 所以它是指的那些指那个指控它可能牵扯到是对于这个比如说方式或者是政策或者是意图发现有错误了，所以进行指控。比如说这个 police for using violence 那就是它的方式了嘛，对不对？ Criticize the police for using violence 这个好细啊，我的妈。Reprehend implies both criticism and severe rebuking. 就是 rebuking 就是指责 ，very 很强烈的指责。那这个程度比这个大更重了。Reprehend the self-centeredness for today's students， 对于当今学生的这个自私，强力谴责。Reprehend. Censure carries a strong suggestion of authority and of reprimanding. Strong suggestion of authority. Censure. A senator formally censured by his peers. Censure 也是有指责，但是呢，它有个包括建议和官方的有这个权威的这个 strong suggestion of authority， 就来自权威的建议。比如说，一个 senator 参议员正式被他的同僚们谴责了。Censure. Reprobated implies strong disapproval or firm refusal to sanction. 强烈的不同意、不允许 or firm refusal 就是对于制裁的一个抗议，比如中共 reprobated， 那可能中共的regarding the American sanction, the Chinese Communist Party reprobated multiple times， 就是他强烈谴责，对吧？ Firm refusal to sanction, reprobate. Condemn 就指责 usually suggests an unqualified and final unfavorable judgment， 对于这个司法的判断或者是unqualified 不合格的谴责。Condemn the government's racial policies. Denounce as to condemn the implication of a public declaration 就是公开的声称，公开的 denounce 对于 condemn 之上还有这个有公开的、公共的这个意思。Denounce. This is intense 就这个很多啊，我会把它记下来，然后到时候这个我觉得有点太细了吧，待我研究一下，然后可能明天再跟朋友们讲怎么记比较好。Denounce， 所以 denounce 有一个公开声称和谴责的意思。那么它还有一个意思，其实上是 announce formally the termination of something， 比如说某个法案 denounce 就是公开宣称它废除了。它有这两个意思啊 ，denounce。denounce condemn criticize， 然后还有另外一个意思就是 to announce formally。Denounce the arrangement of their family ally， 对吧？就是公开把它的取消了。所以 denounce 它都是一个 verb， 它只有一个 verb， 就是 denounce。While denouncing the radical 就是谴责 the radical left Democrats and the fake news media and the Department of Injustice， 就是 denouncing 谴责这个川普的这个post 发的文章里面包括他把 Mr. Bragg 叫成种族主义者、索罗斯支持的人，然后谴责这个 radical left Democrats， 就是激进的左派民主党等等等等这些啊。New York Police Department say who has Mr. Bragg security detail? Who has 就是谁领导了 Mr. Bragg 的 security 的安全的细节 stated。你看，它是两个逗号来解释这个人是什么人，然后他干什么呢？就是他说了 in an这个我不知道，不知道读 affidavit这个 i 读 affidavit 重音在 affidavit a sworn statement in writing made especially under oath or an affirmation before an authorized officer。 宣誓书 under oath something statement under oath 宣誓书，对吧？ affidavit 这也是一个专业的名词，记一下就好了。An affidavit that in 2022, out of the nearly 300 threat cases against public officials, only one named Mr. Bragg， 只有一个点了 Mr. Bragg 的名。然后到2023年的时候 ，there were 89个威胁案件，包括了点了 Bragg 的名字，然后还有他的家庭，还有他的员工。And the first one came to the same day on the same day。第一个是来自于和川普那天发了一个推，是同一天 about the impending indictment， 关于这个诉讼的发的第一个推，就是他收到的第一封这个恐吓信。然后这个人还说 there were 2 letters addressed to the district attorney containing white powder notes reading, Alvin, I'm going to kill you and you will be sorry, and photos of Mr. Bragg and President Trump。 他就说了这2个 letter 恐吓信里面讲了什么。OK， 然后他还说 monitor 600 more harassing emails, calls, and text messages directed towards the district attorney and other staff in his office. And the prosecutor added that there had been thousands in total, quite a few. The prosecutors also submitted several court filings from President Trump's other criminal cases, including an affidavit by investigator Say, who stated that Fulton County District Attorney 这个人 had been doxed。 这个人应该也是这个意思，应该也是恐吓的意思。dox to publicly identify or publish private information about. Oh, doxed 被 as form punishment or revenge 作为报复，把他的个人信息 private information 给发布出来了。dox 它是一个动词，名词 doxing they were doxed 那就是这个意思 they were doxed anonymous Wikipedia user edited their pages. Okay, 曝光了，被曝光了。Being doxed and received multiple threats after her prosecution of President Trump began, I think it should be pronounced as begun. I'm sorry, begun. Began. 哎，这个英语我现在已经忘的真的，小学丢给小学老师都有了。Began. I need to be very clear and precise. OK， 我就经常有点含糊过去，但其实有很多东西呢都不是特别的 clear 了。现在 Case。The Manhattan case was the first President Trump's full criminal indictments, and it is the first of those cases to go to trial. 这是第一个走入trial 程序的案件，然后是川普所背的4个案件当中的一个。President Trump was charged with 34 counts of falsifying business records. 是34项罪行，对于这个 falsifying business records 就是错误的保留商业记录。And prosecutors allege that he did so in an effort to conceal, to 掩盖。他这样做的原因是为了掩盖 an illegal scheme to influence the 2016 presidential election. Illegal scheme, 非法的 scheme 就是计划、图谋 to influence 影响2016年的这个总统选举。The investigation arose from claims made by Mr. Cohen, who spoke publicly about paying an adult film actress, 成人电影女星, to prevent her from making statements about an alleged affair with President Trump. 为了防止这个成人电影女星去公开说她和川普的一段情，但这段情呢是一个所谓的 alleged 被指控的这段情，是不是真的还不知道。川普凡是一直否认啊 ，an alleged affair, have an affair 就是这2个人的 to have an affair， 这2个人 有一点见不得人的关系，就是一般这个 affair 就是 having an affair，就是比较不好的啊，不是那个好的，你懂的。对，with President Trump before he was elected, Miss Cohen claimed that he was reimbursed. Reimbursed 就是被 reimburse 中文怎么讲？就是比如说你付了钱，然后你预付了钱，公司给你报销了啊，报销，对，报销了，就非法的报销了。把 his client 这个 his client 就指的川普了，被川普就是报销了，但是是违规的操作。然后因此呢 there were falsified business records as a result， 就是有这个错误的商业记录了。OK，55 minutes past。那我们这篇文章就看完了。这篇文章呢，它其实上就是讲的这个 Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg，他要对川普寻求一个封口令，然后指控他，其实这个封口令在很多的经手川普 case 的法院当中都已经有这样的先例了，所以这并不是一个心血来潮的一个新的举动，它是 well established， 就是已经有这样的案例了，然后说了一下川普以往的行为，他会就是指控他会影响这个证人，可能会对这个司法的审判呢造成影响，所以他需要在这个案件当中也把窗口禁言，然后对，档案理由除了这个川普的言论之外呢，还说他收到了恐吓信，就好像说，收到恐吓信增多了，所以呢，导致这个证人可能不敢出庭作证，不可以导致会影响这个案件的推动，等等的，这样子的这个意思。好，那么朋友们对于这个案件有什么想说的呢？你觉得这个合不合理呀？作为被告的话，要禁言，我觉得这是有一点 breach the First Amendment， 就是 freedom of speech 了吧？我是这样看啊，朋友们也可以把你的看法留言告诉我。好了，我们今天就到这里，那我们明天再见喽，See you guys tomorrow. Bye. Take care. Until next time.